Identifying structure is another key part of trading. So in this video, I'm going to give a couple examples of how we identify structure on the 30-minute. Now I trade the 30-minute and the 5-minute to keep things simple. We don't go any higher, we don't go any lower. However, in this video, the 30-minute structure will be our main focus. So without further ado, identifying structure is a key part of the trading, as I was saying before. There is a couple parts to identifying what structure is, and you just need to identify where the higher highs are, where the higher lows are, where the lower lows are, where the lower highs. For example, if we're in an uptrend, we're going to be making higher highs and higher lows. If we're in a downtrend, we're going to be making lower lows and lower highs. So this is the basic example to what sort of structure that we need to be looking for. And basically we need to know these because if structure flips, then we're going to be switching from making higher highs and lower highs to then lower lows and lower highs. For example, this chart in front of me right here, we can see we have made a sort of little uptrend that we've been going on. We've made lower highs, higher highs. And then we've sort of evened out here with the lower low. And then we started to make a lower high. So at this point, you've kind of realized maybe price has started to reverse. And then as soon as you see this break of structure here, so we have this structure point right here, as soon as you've seen this break right here, that is when you can recognize, okay, price has broken structure. So now we're going from the ups to making higher highs and lower highs, we've now switched so we can potentially start seeing some lower highs and some lower lows, which is exactly what we saw. We saw a lower low here, we saw a lower high here, making our way further down the chart, a lower low, a lower high, a lower low, and maybe even a lower high right here. So we flipped from going bullish straight into bearish simply by the change of a structure point. Now another example here, let's take this chart for example. We're creating lower lows, lower highs in this sort of downtrend pattern that we had going on right here. We then decided to come back up, but we didn't break the previous high that we had here. Therefore, price is still trading under and you can still probably expect to see some sells. However, what price did was just consolidate, and there's no telling if price is going to do this or not. It just happens. Therefore, what are we going to wait for? Simply when we are trading, if I just get the arrow tool here, you're going to wait for a break below this if you want to see some further sell-off, or you're going to wait for a break of these highs here to then take price further up. So you could say, okay, look, we're in a range, we're consolidating right now. So the structure I'm not really interested in because we're not making clear higher highs, we're not making clear lower lows or lower highs. We are simply just trading sideways. And that is the worst possible situation that you can be in for finding structure. So you would simply just have to sit on your hands and wait for the trade to break out in either direction. Now you'd simply do this by saying, okay, look, we have this consolidation here and we're ranging. So what would we do? Target the top of the range and say, look, if we break this level here, I want to get an entry around this area here. If we get a tap back in, then I want to see a trade from this level of structure as we got, and I want to take price all the way to the upside because that structure has broken, and then you can see price maybe come down, get a tap back in before carrying further up. The same would be if we broke this structure down here. Now because we're in a range, we trade the highest point to the lowest point of the range and we just wait for one of them to break and we get a retest in to either side. So although it's not a US session, which the US candles are the beige ones, and Asia and London session are the red candles that you see on the chart. So we'd only see a break of structure for the low side if we saw something like this. That is the only way we'd be interested in. If we got a break to the downside, then I'd want to see some actual sells from this further point here. As we can see though, we got a break of structure to the upside from this range. Then we can start taking price higher because we've had that break above. If we didn't have any break above and kept ranging, I would not be interested. The same if we still traded down here, we didn't get a break below, I would not be interested. I would move to a different pair. So when you're in a range, it's crucial that, look, you're not going to get these points of structure. You're only going to get the points of structure from the very top of the range to the very bottom of the range, and then you can trade whichever one breaks out first. If it goes to the up, in this scenario it did, or if it breaks below, like I say, which it didn't in this one. So let's say you're now trading this, what we can see on the chart. And if you're always struggling with a trend, it's always worth just drawing it out with the arrow tool just to see what sort of price is doing. Now you can probably already tell on the chart that we've gone from making higher highs and higher lows to making lower highs and lower lows. For example, here we've simply made the switch. We've broken the structure to the downside after we broke this structure point right here. In this case, it would be this one right here. We broke this structure point with this one. We came back up, made a lower high, and then price kept pushing down to make some lower lows as well. So we've gone from pushing to the upside to then start flipping and slowly turn into a bearish trade. So gone from bullish into bearish simply by understanding that these structure points have broken. We had this structure point. Now if this held, and let's say, okay, we've come down to here and we've actually held this area, we've tapped back in and we start making up, of course you're still only going to be looking for buys. If you get your trend line tool, you can clearly see we are still going up on this trade. So let me just make that black. The line is going up, therefore the trade will be bullish. So identifying structure isn't hard, and you can definitely practice this and go into the charts even today and have a look and see what structures you can find. I mean, even scrolling back here, you can clearly see, look, okay, we're in a bit of a range here. So what do we do in sort of a range sort of mindset? We'd say, okay, look, if we break above this level here, I want to see a tap back in to take price higher. If we do break below the bottom point of the zone, then I want to see a break below, a tap back in, and then an entry candle. Keep in mind we're on the 30-minute. An entry candle to take price lower, and then you would find a zone from there. So we've gone from consolidating to then breaking to the downside. You get a retest, and this is where you'd get your entry, and then price continues to fall down. It then reverses and comes back up, but you can see over here we broke the zone again, and we start coming all the way back up, and then it looks like we're about to tap in again. So identifying structure is simply knowing the previous highs and lows and then working it out from there. So you have this point here, you could say, okay, look, if we break this structure point here, then I'm going to be looking for sells. We broke below it, we got a tap back here to make a lower high, and then we started making a lower low. Yes, price reversed from this level, but for the sake of structure, for the sake of this video, you can see these certain points on the 30-minute time frame that get broken, get pushed up, get broken again, so you can see the structure break and make itself. So an example of a clear downtrend, you can clearly see we're making lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, and lower highs. Therefore, we are simply in a downtrend. So you'd only sort of be looking for sells on that day. Now, knowing what we know about our zones and how we actually use the 30-minute within the day, we could say, okay, look, well, if we do get a break above this level, then I do want to see some more buys because we've then broken to the upside. However, if we can maintain, let's say, this level right here, if we keep hitting this level, then I want to see some potential sell-offs, and we can try get an entry from there because the structure has held. If it were to break above this level, for example, we have these key areas, then you say, okay, price has now broken again to the upside. So yes, I'll be wary of this zone that price could reverse from it, but I'd rather be in buys from this level if we get a break above and a retest in than in for sells, because we've broken that structure to the upside and we want to be in for buys, being wary of the previous US session zones that price could potentially reverse from. So it's always key to make sure that you understand these things. So identifying structures is rather easy. Now, using the daily analysis that I post in the Discord, which is free in the description, you can see the examples of what I look at every day and what I see. So you can see that, okay, if we break the structure to the downside, we are going to get a retest in, hopefully, to take price further to the downside. On the flip side, like in this example, let's just use the replay tool right here. let's say I'm looking at the chart for the day. If we get a break above this zone, I want to see a tap back in to potentially take price further up. Or if we can hold this level, I want to see a price tap back into this level to bring us further down. And that is basically what the structure is. So I have many examples on the Discord, and like I say, every trading day you're going to get an analysis on the Discord. So this is what I post, and it will make more sense to you when you see more examples. But structure is a very, very simple concept to understand. Now, if it feels like I've rushed through this, there will be a part 2 and even a part 3 to this sort of video. So we'll make sure that you can understand structure and understand what we look for every single day.